the racing, the big one, the camping. It's all just bigger at Talladega. And with a doubleheader on Saturday and a cup race on Sunday, it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
But one thing for sure, it's always thrilling.
And as they go across the stripe, a photo finish!
NASCAR's biggest and baddest track is back. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Good to be with you in Tuscaloosa this week, back at our CTSN studios as we start to go through today's show, looking ahead to a lot of basketball coming up for the Crimson Tide, plus some conversation on Alabama baseball and gymnastics as well. But we'll start to go through everything coming up on the show. Thanks to our friends at RJ Young. They provided us with this smart board to go through all the headlines for today. And remember, RJ Young is the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. First things first, coming up on the show, we'll be talking men's basketball with Brian Passing before he heads to Nashville to call Alabama's game tomorrow in the quarterfinals of the SEC tournament. A full preview coming up with Brian. Then we'll hear from the baseball head coach of the Crimson Tide, Brad Bohannon. His team is the only undefeated baseball team in the Southeastern Conference, a 21-7 win on Wednesday. We'll hear from Coach Bo after that victory. Then we'll hear from head coach Nate Oates as we got to visit with him on Hey Coach earlier this week. A great conversation about the regular season championship for the Crimson Tide and what's ahead this week in Nashville. And also with a Hey Coach replay, we'll be hearing from Ella Burgess, a senior gymnast who will be recognized coming up tomorrow for Alabama Gymnastics Senior Night when the Crimson Tide wrap up the regular season at home against Boise State. So that's everything coming up on the show today. We'll start to go through our headlines, starting with Crimson Tide men's basketball team. Alabama, the regular season champions, only lost 2 games throughout SEC play, including last week against Texas A&M. A lot of SEC award winners. All the information available on RolledTide.com, but a couple of the headliners, Javon Quinterly, the Co-6 Player of the Year. Great to see that recognition for JQ, and then Brandon Miller, the SEC Player and Freshman of the Year. Now this weekend, the SEC tournament in Nashville 2 years ago, of course, the Crimson Tide won the regular season, then won the SEC tournament, hoping for the same success at Bridgestone Arena. And we know that all the games will start at noon Central. That means on the radio, our coverage will be starting at 11 a.m. We know for sure on Friday, then hopefully in the semifinals on Saturday, and the championship game coming up on Sunday. That'll also be Selection Sunday for men's and women's basketball. Baseball team continuing to pick up wins, defeating Samford 11-6 in Birmingham, the first road game of the year for the Tide on Tuesday. Last night returned home a run rule victory, 21-7 against Alabama State. Home runs left and right for the Crimson Tide in that ball game. Now this weekend, the Crimson Tide hosting the reigning Ivy League champions, Columbia. So Columbia will be the series this week, the final weekend of non-conference play for Alabama. And congratulations to Colby Shelton on a home run tear, hitting 5 home runs over the weekend. He has been named the SEC Freshman of the Week, and that was on Monday. He got that announced. The next day against Samford, he had 2 home runs. Really impressive work from Colby Shelton, up to 9 home runs already this season for him. How about the softball team? They've continued their winning ways as well after a perfect weekend at home for the Crimson Classic. Defeated Western Michigan on Tuesday in Tuscaloosa. Then on Wednesday, it was a road victory for the Tide at Birmingham against UAB. A solid victory there for the Tide. So some really good momentum for Patrick Murphy's team going into what's coming up this weekend, the Bevo Classic in Texas. This is the first week of SEC play in softball. It is not technically an SEC series just yet. The Longhorns will be joining the league soon enough, but really good test coming up this week against Texas, Texas State, and Wisconsin for Alabama. Montana Fouts on Sunday picked up a perfect game, the 3rd of her career, the 8th in Alabama history. That's why she is the SEC Pitcher of the Week. Final notes around Crimson Tide athletics for today. Gymnastics again home against Boise State coming up tomorrow at 7 p.m. It's senior night and the final time you can see the Crimson Tide in person this year. Congratulations to Luisa Blanco. She has been named the SEC Specialist of the Week. Back-to-back weeks, she has had a perfect 10 on the balance beam. Great results by Luisa Blanco, who will be recognized on senior night coming up tomorrow. Then, as I mentioned, Selection Sunday is almost here for men's and women's basketball. The men's selection show will be at 5 p.m. Central. The women's show right after that at 7 p.m. So we look forward to seeing where the Crimson Tide are headed for the NCAA tournament. We know the Crimson Tide men's basketball team is headed to Nashville for the SEC tournament, and our color analyst on the network, Brian Passing, gives us his thoughts on the Crimson Tide as we start March in basketball. Roll Tide, Brian. It's had a championship time once again for the Crimson Tide in the regular season. Now we're looking ahead to the tournament, but how's everything going?
Everything's great. This is my favorite time of the year. March Madness is upon us. It's been an incredible regular season to cut down the nets on Wednesday night against Auburn and secure the number one overall seed in the SEC tournament, a regular season title. Now it's time for the SEC tournament. Can't wait to get to Nashville, hopefully gain some momentum going into the NCAA tournament, but another opportunity for this program to cut down the nets.
Well, going back to last week, we were really hoping that Wednesday night Alabama would get to cut down the nets against the Auburn Tigers, but obviously trailed by 9 in the first half, down by double digits as deep into the second half is with 8 minutes to go. So what changed for Alabama to come back, force overtime, and then eventually get the 5-point win against the Tigers?
Well, the toughness that they showed, because Auburn was on fire from the 3-point line, and Auburn's a really good team defensively, and they've got athletes. And I mean, this is a top 15 preseason team in Auburn. The one area that they have been inconsistent with, to say the least, is 3-point shooting. They have not shot the ball well from three this year. They only make 6 made threes a game. Well, they were the majority of the game, over 80% from the 3-point line. They made 12, so they doubled their average. To their credit, they needed to make shots. They did in a big way. When Alabama was down 17 in the second half, I didn't think we were going to need the scissors after the game. But this team has shown so much toughness, grit. They stayed with it. They got stops. They put multiple stops together, had a few shots fall, but really it was staying with the defensive game plan against a team that was hot in Auburn. And the toughness and maturity that it takes to do that on a night, what we hoped in the beginning was going to be a special night. And then you felt like, well, maybe this isn't going to be so special, and Alabama's not going to have that opportunity to cut down the nets and win the outright championship at home in front of 15,000 at Coleman Coliseum. This team battled back, and it became an epic night. It was a night of a comeback, winning in overtime, winning the title, sweeping your rival, tearing their hearts out in the process, which added a little bit of satisfaction to the night. But it was one of the most special nights that I've experienced at Coleman Coliseum. There have been a bunch over the many years that I've been around this program, but Wednesday night was great for so many reasons. And to win another championship, the second in 3 years for Nate Oates in this program, just an incredible accomplishment.
Really was, and we got to see the Crimson Tide recognized by the SEC office earlier in the week, starting with Brandon Miller, the SEC Player of the Year, Freshman of the Year on the All-Freshman and First Team. Just with everything he's put together this season, what was your reaction to the news that he was the Player and Freshman of the Year?
Well, it was well-deserved. I think he's clearly the best player in the Southeastern Conference and probably the best player in the country. He's had a spectacular year, one of the best we've ever seen for anyone wearing the crimson and white. So was happy for him, and I don't think he's done yet as far as the accolades and awards that he'll get. Saw today he's made some first-team All-American lists, and he's had just an incredible year. And the thing that I like about Brandon is his maturity, the way that he has impacted games where he hasn't shot the ball well. He does it on both ends. That's why I think he's the best player in the country, because his offensive numbers speak for themselves. One of the best in Alabama history offensively, one of the best in the country this year offensively. But he impacts the game in so many different ways. One of the best rebounders in the country in the SEC. He blocks shots. He can guard point guards. He can guard power forwards. So versatile on the defensive end. He's also, even though he's not shot the ball as well the last couple of games, he's one of the best 3-point percentage shooters in the country. So he has had an incredible year. We expected a lot out of Brandon Miller this year. McDonald's All-American, thought he would be really good and one of the better freshmen in the SEC in the country, but he has far exceeded those expectations. And a big reason why is this system fits what he does. He's worked extremely hard. But it has been it's been fun to watch Brandon, his individual success, but more importantly, the team success. And that's another attribute of Brandon Miller and this team, is it is a team first approach. And when you have team success and cut down the nets and win championships, the individual honors follow. And that's been the case.
Same could be said for Mark Sears, talking about fitting the system that Alabama plays. He was second team All SEC, and for him, he gets to come home to the state of Alabama and get to win a championship with Crimson Tide. Just, I know you've been impressed by the play of Mark Sears this season.
Yeah, all these new players have exceeded expectations, and Mark Sears is a great example of a guy that I thought would play an important role in this team. But I wasn't sure if his numbers would translate from Ohio to Alabama in the SEC, playing one of the toughest schedules in the country. But he has. In an area that Mark has impressed me that I wasn't expecting is his ability to defend. He's been in the top 5, top 10 of the SEC in steals all year long. We know what his offensive numbers have been. Shoots the three, can get in the lane, plays with so much toughness. So he has had a great year and was happy that he got that honor.
Great honors as well of Charles Bediako on the all defensive team, Jaden Bradley, Noah Clowney, all freshman team. But let's finish up our conversation on awards with Javon Quinterly, the Coast Sixth Man of the Year in the SEC. Obviously, in Nashville a couple of years ago, the SEC tournament, he was the most outstanding player, and we're hoping for another great run for him at the SEC tournament. But looking at what he was coming back from and what his role was asked to be this season, how impressed are you by Javon Quinterly and what he's done?
Yeah, I'm just blown away by what Javon has done. And I don't think we appreciate Javon Quinterly enough as Alabama fans. This guy tears his ACL in the NCAA tournament. A lot of guys wouldn't come back for a full year. He not only came back way early, but he has turned himself into the player that he was, and maybe even a little better than he was last year with the way he's played the last 3 games. He has worked so hard, and there have been moments this season where he hasn't gotten the playing time that he would like. Key situations, end of games with the game on the line. JQ, there have been games where he hasn't been in there. But what I love about him is he's on the sideline cheering for his teammates, thinking, again, team first, individual second. And that attitude from a leader like Javon Quinterly is so important. 2 years ago, when he was the SEC tournament MVP, I thought he was playing probably the best basketball for a point guard in the country, and he's right back where he was then. We know about Brandon Miller and Noah Clowney in this freshman class, but when you add JQ to the mix with the level that he's playing at, this team has a chance to do some special things. And really happy for Alabama, obviously, but for JQ specifically, because I've seen him work so hard and fight through the adversity of the injury, and then just having bumps in the road as you try to get back into the form that we know he can play at. He's done that in a big way, and a big reason why is his work ethic and it is his attitude. So love to see him get that award. It was well deserved.
So for this team getting ready for the SEC tournament, where are some areas that Alabama still has to clean up, either from the loss against Texas A&M or even some of the recent ball games where Alabama's gotten off to a slow start?
Well, I think that's one is you want to get off to a quicker start, and I think I hope they will do that. And the other is shooting the ball. It's not an area that I'm really concerned with because this team has too many good shooters. They take good shots. They're efficient on the offensive end, but the offensive numbers from a shooting standpoint have not been what we hoped it would be late in the season. I think there's some reasons for that. I think a big reason why Alabama and pretty much everybody else at this point in the season is a little bit tired and the legs are a little bit heavier. And I think the double bye could not have come at a better time to have essentially a week off between the A&M game and Alabama's first game against either Florida or Mississippi State on Friday at noon in Nashville. Could not have come at a better time, have a chance to rest their legs, get refreshed physically, mentally. The season is long for these guys. They've been together as a team since the summer, if not before, getting ready for the foreign trip. And then you go right into practice, and they've had one of the toughest schedules in the country. And the season is a grind. So to have that double bye is huge for this team. And I think it'll help them from a shooting standpoint where they've not shot it nearly as well as I think they will in the SEC and NCAA tournament. So looking forward to a refreshed Alabama team on Friday afternoon in Nashville.
Well, of course, you've gotten to see everybody in the SEC this season, and as we get ready for the SEC tournament, just who's playing some of the best basketball right now in the league outside of Alabama?
Well, you look at Vanderbilt, with the way they finished the season. Jerry Stackhouse has his team playing at a really high level. They have had ups and downs this year, but late in the season they've won some big games, and I'm not sure it's been quite good enough to get in the NCAA tournament. But who knows? They're there in the hometown in Nashville. They're playing really well. So Vanderbilt is a team that can make a run. And then you look at some of the other schools. Texas A&M. We know from what we saw on Saturday, Buzz Williams' teams play tough. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and they're a team that can make a run. But the SEC is one of the best basketball leagues in the country, and it's going to be a lot of fun, as it always is in the SEC tournament, but especially in Nashville. Never count out the Cats. They take over Bridgestone Arena, and it's going to be kind of a home court advantage for Kentucky. And they finished the season on a strong note, going to Arkansas and winning in a hostile environment. But I'm going to go with Alabama. I think the Crimson Tide, the number one seed in the tournament, the SEC champs. And when I was in high school and college, they called it the Wimp Sanderson Invitational. And a big reason why was obviously Alabama was good, winning championships, getting the championship game pretty much every year. But Alabama fans travel, and it was Alabama fans taking over SEC tournament venues. And I would expect a ton of Crimson and White to be in the building on Friday at noon, and hopefully Saturday, and then on to Sunday in the home court. We'll be talking about Alabama's home court advantage there in Nashville.
Really like the sound of that. And before we let you go, of course, you live in Birmingham. Chris Stewart lives in Birmingham. I live in Birmingham. And even Tom Stipe, who lives in Tuscaloosa. All of us would love to see the Crimson Tide in the NCAA tournament play in Birmingham, in downtown and Legacy Arena. But is there any danger of Alabama maybe falling out of being in Birmingham? For instance, if the Crimson Tide aren't the top overall number one seed, should fans be worried about whether or not the Crimson Tide could be playing in-state in the NCAA tournament in a week?
No, it's going to be Birmingham. No matter what happens here on out. Right now, I think Alabama's in great shape for a number one seed, possibly depending on what happens around the country, what happens in Nashville. A number one overall seed is still very much a possibility. I mean, this team is in great shape to be positioned to make a run in the NCAA tournament, but they call it March Madness with the emphasis on madness for a reason, because you never know what can happen. You can't take anything for granted. Ask Virginia a couple of years ago as the number one seed, the first ever to lose a first round game. So whoever you're playing, you're going to take seriously. But Alabama should be playing in front of some great crowds there in Nashville and then in Birmingham next week in the NCAA tournament.
That sounds good. Well, Brian Passink, best of luck. Safe travels to Nashville coming up this week. And then again, we hope to see you right back here again next week for the start of the SEC or the NCAA tournament after hopefully a great run in the SEC tournament. But thank you for joining us today. Roll Tide.
Always enjoy it. Thanks, Roger. Roll Tide.
NASCAR's 75th anniversary season is officially here, and the competition is heating up. Don't miss out on NASCAR's much-anticipated return to Talladega Superspeedway for the Geico 500 on April 23rd. Experience the excitement of four-wide racing and acres of some of the best camping that NASCAR has to offer. Lock in your tickets today at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com. Well, last night, the Crimson Tide baseball team, after being delayed by about 20 minutes from rain, really showed no ill effects due to the rain delay as Alabama picked up another victory. Brad Bohannon's team, a perfect 14-0 on the season, and it was a 21-7 win last night against Alabama State after the 5-run victory the day before in Birmingham against Samford. So we want to let you hear from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Brad Bohannon. He met with the media after the ball game, and here's coach's checklist for Alabama baseball.
Who would ever thought that we would score 21 runs in 6 times at bat, and Colby Shelton and Drew Williamson not get a hit? But yeah, just really good offensive performance for us. Second night in a row, we hit 5 last night, 4 tonight. So really happy about that, and just glad to have it behind us. It can be pretty taxing playing the double midweeks, 5 games in 6 days, and glad to have that last one behind us, and we'll kind of catch our breath tomorrow, and excited to play Columbia this week, and maybe a little step up in competition, which we're at the point where we need that. So again, glad to be 14-0. Yeah, just that we've done a really good job in both of those areas, and I think probably a pretty good basic point in coaching is what you'll probably get a better chance to be good at things that you make important, and I think our kids are very clear that those two things were very important coming into the season. So, look, man, we're doing a good job, but we're 14 games in. I'm certainly hopeful that we get to play 65 or 70 games this year, but we're doing a good job. I'm proud of the team. As we get into league play, I think we'll be more active on the bases and do a little more with the short game. We really haven't done a bunch of it just because the game hasn't called for it. So really just been stringing at-bats together and getting our fair share of extra base hits to this point. But as the pitching gets a little tougher, it's going to be harder to string a bunch of hits together, and we're going to have to create a little bit more. But we've done a good job of that when the game's called for it to this point.
The racing, the big one, the camping. It's all just bigger at Talladega.
One thing for sure, it's always thrilling.
NASCAR's biggest and baddest track is back. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
We go from one head coach to another at the University of Alabama as we now take a look back to Monday's edition of Hey Coach and our conversation with Nate Oates. Typically, we don't replay Coach Oates' comments from Hey Coach on Monday because there's always a game on either Tuesday or Wednesday that kind of changes the narrative around Alabama basketball. But this week, with a double bye in the SEC tournament, Alabama not playing until tomorrow at noon. So a lot of our conversation from Monday night still very relevant as we caught up with Nate Oates at Baumhower's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. Here's a look back at Hey Coach from Monday night.
Roll Tide, Coach.
Thanks, Roger. Roll Tide.
It is special to be a champion once again, 2 times in the last 3 years. What did last Wednesday mean to you getting to cut down the nets at Coleman?
Yeah, it was great. It was a little more special than 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we clinched it on the road at Mississippi State. We had a great welcome, too. I still remember Fluff had everybody rounded up waiting for us when the bus pulled up, so that was special. But it was nice to do it against Auburn in our own gym in front of our own fans. We got to cut the nets down. There's a lot of people that waited to see it all. So, yeah, it was special, especially the way we did it. We were down 17 with about 9.5 minutes to go. So our guys showed a ton of fight, a lot of resilience. That was, one of the bigger comeback wins I've ever been associated with. So it was a fun game for sure.
What fueled that comeback, especially in the second half? Because like you mentioned, Auburn was playing well. They're fighting for their life on the NCAA tournament bubble. What went into that comeback for your group?
Yeah, obviously Quinterly played really well that game. It's particularly in the second half. He kind of helped us come back. But, our defense picked up. I thought a lot of guys stepped up, to be honest with you. But, we got a little more aggressive. We, they were up 17. I think in their minds they maybe thought they had it. And, I don't want to say they relaxed at all, but, when you made the comeback and cut it single digits, they got a little tighter, and our guys played pretty aggressive, and, we just started making some plays. So, it was, that was a fun one for sure. I don't know if I can name one particular thing that was big in the comeback, but we had pretty good balance. Quinterly led us with 24. Then our next leading scorer was 3 guys tied at 17 points. I think Sears, Brandon, and Clowney all at 17 each. So we had pretty good balance there. They couldn't just focus on, Brandon or Javon or Mark or anybody. I thought, Clowney had some big putbacks, and we played well. They played well together.
Certainly was a special night last week as Alabama clinched the SEC championship with the overtime win against Auburn.
But yeah, it was a good day for us as far as SEC awards go, and we had 6 players get an SEC award. It's the most in program history for one year. Brandon's the first freshman to win Freshman of the Year and Player of the Year since Anthony Davis, so that's pretty good company. Yeah, you give him a round of applause. It's great that he was recognized on that, and then he was joined on the all-freshman team by Jaden Bradley and Noah Clowney. All 3 of those guys have been starters for us and played great for us through the course of the year. Yeah, and then Mark Sears was second team. Obviously Brandon was first team being player of the year. Mark was second team. He's been great. really big for us all year. Charles Bediako was on the all-defensive team, and then Javon Quinley, for the first time in school history, we got a sixth man of the year. So, those 6 guys all deserve the awards. I was happy for them. We kind of have a saying in our program, when the tide rises, all the boats rise. We had a good year. We won. When you win, you get rewarded, and our guys were all rewarded pretty well there.
Were you guys together? Was it practice time or meeting time when those awards were announced?
No, it was after practice was over, so we haven't even been together as a team since then, but I'm sure they all know.
Well, before we go to break, how has practice been since the Texas A&M game?
We gave them yesterday off. We went today. Today was a lot of skill, just kind of getting back to us being good at who we are. We got a lot of shooting up, but we didn't kind of opted not to do a cleanup on the A&M game. We just kind of got them in, went right to the practice floor. If we play them again, we'll clean up that, kind of show them. We'll show, we put the cleanup out there for them to look at individually, and we'll kind of went through some guys individually. I didn't want to make it too negative. We've had a great year. It's a new season. We got to get our minds right. We got to get back playing well, shooting the ball well, get our energy back right. So I thought today's practice was good. We'll kind of do something similar tomorrow, a lot of skill work, and we're not really going to focus in too much on either of the 2 teams that we're going to play until Wednesday. We'll kind of take one Wednesday, one Thursday, when you're kind of doing more game prep. Today and tomorrow will be more focused on us and just getting us better.
How strong was the league in your 4th season here?
It was pretty balanced, to see what Texas A&M was able to do, and they played well, but, different teams went on different runs. Some of the teams that had really good non-conference records came in and then struggled in the league a little bit, just kind of show you how deep it was. And some of the teams that had some better talent, ended up finishing middle of the pack. So it was, one of those deals where Tennessee, I think is still, third maybe in the net. I think if I saw that today, and they're the 5th seed. So they're the 3rd in the net in the country, but they're the 5th seed in the SEC tournament. So that kind of tells you what kind of balance we have. I think when you look at some of the seeds in the SEC tournament and who's in the, look who's 5 through 9, 5 through 10 in there, and look at those. We've got a good chance to put a really good amount of teams in the NCAA tournament, and some of them I think have a chance to make a run too.
It's exciting. We get to go to Nashville this week. Of course, Crimson Tide 2 years ago in Nashville won the SEC tournament, and it's a similar situation for Alabama. You earn the double bye, you start play on Friday. What's the key to winning in a tournament like this where you're playing back-to-back, hopefully?
Yeah, you got to have some depth in order to win the whole thing, because you got to play 3 straight games. You got to have multiple scoring options. You can't expect one guy to carry every night for 3 straight games. You got to have a solid defense, because you're not going to be able to just catch fire for every game offensively. So, our defense has been good. I think we're 3rd in the country right now in defensive efficiency. That's exactly where we were 2 years ago when we won it. It obviously helped to make some shots, but I think we can still win even when we're not making shots. But the stuff you can control a little bit more of, your effort, your defense, your rebounding, that stuff you got to be elite at, and we've been pretty good at most of that stuff all year.
When you look back at some of the last few games, what do you see in the 3-point shots Alabama's taking? Are you liking some of the open looks Alabama's getting?
Yeah, I think early some guys are maybe forcing the issue a little bit, but, we had a lot of good looks. We just missed them. We got guys getting in the gym, make sure their legs are back up under them. We played at 11 o'clock Saturday, gave them Sunday off, so we almost had 48 hours before we got back in the gym. And then we did a lot of shooting today. We'll do a lot of shooting tomorrow, and just make sure we're taking good shots. And you can't rely on just making shots to win. As poorly as we shot it, we were still up 3 late in that game against A&M. If we could have taken care of the ball a little bit better, not turned it over, some of the turnovers we had, did a little bit better job defensively, quit fouling them. We put them to the free throw line too much. There's other stuff that we could control a lot better that we didn't do a good enough job to win that game. So whether we make or miss shots, obviously making shots helps you win games, but I still think you can win games even if you're not, on fire in a particular game.
How about getting downhill and getting to the free throw line? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, we're one of the better teams at getting the line, and I think, we didn't do a great job of it against A&M. They've got that defense. That's a hard game to go into with a little prep. We played Wednesday instead of Tuesday going into that game. And we had the overtime game, so we were tired. We didn't really practice Thursday. We kind of got them in, didn't do a whole lot other than shoot. So we really just had Friday's practice, get ready for it. Not that that's an excuse, but, they play so much different defensively, and, they kind of keep you off balance a little bit. I thought, that kind of messed with us a little bit. And we haven't had very good starts. We've been playing down double digits in the first half the last 4 games. So we got to do a better job getting off to a better start. I think that's on both sides of the ball.
We talked about cutting down the nets last week and how special that was in front of the fans at Coleman Coliseum. How about for you? You wouldn't climb top the ladder until your daughters were there with you. What'd that mean to have them with you for that moment?
Burrell's over there right now. She's got the picture.
Hanging out with Perk.
She's got that picture as her wallpaper picture on her phone. So it motivated me. I changed my wallpaper picture to it. So that was pretty cool.
It's going to be a good look, Charlie.
Yeah, no, it was the first time we won it 2 years ago. That there wasn't enough pieces of the net for them at the end, and they had done it at Buffalo. So Jossie was all upset that, we got to cut it at Buffalo. We didn't get to cut it here. So I think there was 2 strands left to cut. There was 4 of us. So I said, you two take one, and me and Briella take the next one. So that was pretty cool. It's nice to have your girls be able to be involved. They'll be up there in Nashville with us for the SEC tournament, too.
Do you have all the pieces of all the nets throughout your career in one spot in your office?
I don't in one. I need 2 probably, but I've got different ones, different places. So yeah, I should probably start labeling them.
It could run together at some point.
You forget what one's what.
Well, hopefully you had another one coming up this Sunday. We wish you and the Crimson Tide the best of luck. Just thank you so much for joining us tonight. Roll Tide, Coach.
Appreciate it, Roger. Roll Tide.
That's the head coach of the SEC champion Alabama Crimson Tide, Nate Oates.
Good luck to Coach Oates and the Crimson Tide in the SEC tournament starting tomorrow at noon in Nashville. Speaking of tomorrow, we're really excited for the final Alabama Gymnastics home meet of the season, as Alabama will be hosting Boise State here at home at Coleman Coliseum, and it will be the last time we get to see this great group of seniors, 6 seniors overall, participate for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And one of those seniors that we're going to recognize tomorrow night, we had join us earlier in the week on Hey Coach on Monday night from Baumhauer's Victory Grill. We had a great opportunity to catch up with Ella Burgess, who's had a fantastic career for the Crimson Tide. The native of Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida, was able to join us and talk about her journey to Alabama and what the last 4 years have been like. So I hope you enjoy our replay of our conversation with Ella Burgess, an outstanding senior gymnast for the Crimson Tide.
Now joined by Alabama senior gymnast Ella Burgess. Roll Tide, Ella.
Roll Tide.
Everybody fired up to see you tonight, and once again at Coleman Coliseum, coming up for senior night on Friday against Boise State. And just first of all, can you believe it's time for your senior night here at Alabama?
No, I can't believe it. I mean, it's flown by, and it's really bittersweet, but I'm excited for this weekend.
What have you liked the most about this team? What is this team doing well heading into this meet?
I think this team, we just have fun. I mean, every single day in the gym, we go in there, and it's exciting, and no day's the same. And just going into this weekend, I think we're all together and we're all one, and that's just something that's really special. Our bond, you can't really break it.
Well, you guys have had a lot of fun. I know with spike ball, even saw that before the Alabama LSU meet. Happens at a lot of practice. What has spike ball meant to this group?
Oh, spike ball means just about everything to this group. We play for like an hour before practice every day. We play on Sundays. We play before meets. It really just gets us going, gets us warm and hyped before practice or competition, and just makes it kind of a fun environment and takes off the pressure.
Yeah, it really seems like the chemistry is good with this group, and I know a large part of that is, too, thanks to the Vibe Crew. What can you tell us about the Vibe Crew?
Oh, the Vibe Crew. That's something that's new to this year. It's really awesome. It kind of, we select about 5 people per meet, and it kind of ranges from freshman to senior, and it really gives everybody an opportunity to set the tone for the week. And we will come into practice and have a different theme. So today's theme was dress up as a senior. So people walked in dressed up as me or somebody else, so that was fun. But we kind of pick a dress-up theme for the week or something like that, and then they set the tone for the meet on meet day and kind of give us a little speech and a little something to get us all on the same page. And it's really awesome because it gives everybody an opportunity to speak up and have their voice.
Have you been part of the Vibe Crew on a few meets this year?
Yes, I was. I think it was back maybe the second home meet. It was awesome. We just kind of all got together, all spoke about something, and just set the tone for the meet.
That's really good to see. So that's one way this group stays together. But how about the family dinners we've heard about all throughout the season?
Family dinners are my favorite days of the week. Every Sunday we go to Maddie Walgora's house, and we get there at 6 and we bring over food, or she'll cook. She cooked chili one time. Like, it's just really homey. We'll sit there, we'll just be able to eat, whether you're there for 10 minutes or we stay for 2 hours and play spike ball again, or just talk or watch a meet or watch back something. And we kind of just can bond outside of the gym, which really allows us to show our chemistry to show up on the floor.
And I'm sure you've heard before in your career, some upperclassmen will tell you, your career is going to go by just like that in an instant. Has it felt that way now that you're in your senior year and now that we're at the final home meet, you have SECs right on deck?
I mean, it has flown by. My freshman year, I was a graduated early freshman, so I got here, and 2 months later I was sent home for COVID. And then my sophomore year I was out due to injury, so last year was like my first real season, and now I'm a senior, and this season has flown by even faster. They say time flies when you're having fun, and I think that's exactly what we're doing. So
You've been having a lot of fun. Now you get to be one of the upperclassmen, teaching that to some of the freshmen, the sophomores, the juniors, just amongst the youngsters on this Alabama team. Who's impressed you? Who's had a great year?
I mean, I feel like the first one is Gabby Gladio. She's really just stepped up, and she competes like a veteran out there. And I'd also want to highlight Rachel Rybicki. I mean, she's gone into beam, which is one of the harder events to do under pressure, and she's really owned her spot, and she's really worked hard for that. So, and her as a leader as well, like the way that she looks at the team, it's been really cool to see.
And of course, speaking of the balance beam, you're the leadoff for the balance beam. What's your mindset before you perform?
You know, I think I tell myself, you got this about 1,000 times before I go up on that beam, but I mean it. Like, I know I got it, and I know I got my team's back, and I just want to start them off strong, and I work on it in practice to keep that consistency, and I just go out there and do it for them.
What has the home environment been like this season, specifically looking back to the last time Alabama was at home against LSU? The Auburn meet for Power Pink also was unreal.
Yeah, the environment this year has been awesome. I mean, we look up when we're on bars for warm-ups, and we see students flooding in, and it's just like, wow, this has never been like that in the past. So it's been really cool. The students have made a huge difference, especially getting them down on the floor a little bit. It's been really cool. I mean, it's just been an environment that it's been like that at other places, and now to have it at home, I can't thank the community enough. It really shows the Bama family.
It really does. So again, senior night is coming up this week. How many friends and family do you have coming in town to see you once again at Coleman Coliseum?
Yeah, my dad and mom will be there. My brother's coming, which is going to be really exciting because he's never been to a meet in Coleman before, so it'll be his first one. And my grandma, too. She's never been to a Coleman meet, so I'll have them here with me, and it'll be really awesome for them to experience my senior night with me.
We're really excited. What is this team capable of, even looking past what's coming up with Boise State, but on to SECs and then regionals?
I mean, this team is capable of just about anything and everything. We can't close ourselves off to one thing, but when we all are together and on that floor and we combine what we know we can do and what we are capable of doing, it's something special. And I hope everybody can watch it because it's cool to experience, but it's cool to watch it too.
Absolutely. Hopefully a great run to the NCAA championships coming up for the Crimson Tide. And then after your senior season is complete, what's next for Ella Burgess?
Oh, Lord. Oh.
Sorry to put you on the spot. Yeah.
We'll figure that out soon. I mean, I'm still in the works trying to go in from different things, but kind of just focus on the now right here and right now. So, yeah.
Well, we'll let you go on this. What have you enjoyed the most about being an Alabama gymnast?
What have I enjoyed the most? I mean, the family, the sisters. I've never had a sister, and I have 17 of them now, and all the people from my other teams, Team 48 and Team 47 and 46, those, like, I have relationships that are going to last me forever. Like, I have people that are going to be at my weddings. Like, that's probably been the most incredible thing. And just looking up to certain people that have brought me into the leadership position that I am now. I can't thank certain leaders on past teams for helping me find that in myself. So.
Well, you're certainly a leader on this team. Ella Burgess, just thank you so much for joining us tonight on Hey Coach, and best of luck coming up on senior night and everything coming up for Alabama Gymnastics. Roll Tide.
Thank you. Roll Tide.
Let's hear it for Ella Burgess, senior gymnast here at the University of Alabama. Make sure you support the Crimson Tide coming up on Friday night at home against Boise State.
Roll Tide to Ella Burgess Gymnastics tomorrow at 7 o'clock, Alabama against Boise State. Certainly want to see you here on campus at Coleman Coliseum for that event. If you cannot make it, we will have it for you on SEC Network Plus. I'll actually be on the call along with former Crimson Tide gymnast Kiana Winston, so really looking forward to tomorrow night, as that's going to be part of a very busy weekend of Alabama athletics. And as we take a look at our schedule for the weekend, it is time for the Wickles Weekend Update, brought to you by Wickles Pickles. They are wickedly delicious. We always have the pickle chips, the relish on hand. The okra is also delicious. You can find out so much more at Wickles.com. Wickles Pickles, wickedly delicious, and a proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Let's take a look at what's coming up across the network this week. Well, starting tomorrow, a very busy time. First with the NCAA or the SEC tournament for the Crimson Tide men's basketball team at noon, hitting the air at 11 o'clock. And then as Alabama continues to go through the tournament in Nashville, we'll be on each and every game at noon with radio coverage starting at 11. Then we'll also have softball starting its play at the Bevo Classic in Texas at 4 p.m. The baseball team will be at home at 6 p.m. against Columbia to start that series. And then the next day, again, men's basketball, it will be Alabama against Texas State, first of all, in softball, and then Texas later on that day. The 2 o'clock game on Saturday against Columbia in baseball. And then on Sunday, it'll be an early start time for the softball team against Wisconsin at 9:30 a.m. And then the Crimson Tide will be coming home after that. The men's team, hopefully, in the SEC championship game at noon. And then at 1 o'clock, it'll be baseball against Columbia. And then two other notes for Sunday. The men's selection show for the NCAA tournament will be at 5 o'clock. The women's selection show will be at 7 o'clock. So hopefully some very good news on the way for Alabama men's and women's basketball. We'll talk all about it coming up on Monday with another edition of Hey Coach from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR, and there's nothing quite like Sweet Home Talladega. Don't miss out on NASCAR's return to Talladega Superspeedway on April 23rd. This is more than racing. This is Talladega. Purchase your tickets today at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com. It's going to wrap up this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Got to say a huge thank you to our guest earlier in the week on Hey Coach, Ella Burgess, and of course Nate Oates, Brian Passink. Great insight as well on Crimson Tide basketball. We thank them for joining us, as well as our video producer, Ethan Carabin, for putting this show together. And thanks to all of you for watching. Now let's enjoy some Crimson Tide athletics over the weekend. Baseball, softball, gymnastics, men's basketball, the SEC tournament. Hopefully a very fun weekend ahead for all Crimson Tide fans. For everybody with the Crimson Tide Sports Network, this is Roger Hoover saying thank you for watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Have a great weekend and roll Tide.